Ambassador David Miller stood at the large window of the Galactic Council station, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The blue-green marble of Earth shimmered in the distance, peaceful and unaware of the storm about to break across the galaxy. "Ambassador Miller, they're ready for you," his assistant said quietly. Miller took a deep breath and straightened his dark blue uniform. After 15 years as Earth's voice in the Council, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. The Council chamber was a vast circle of raised seats, with representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations in attendance. The Centaurian representative, Zaxval, caught Miller's eye. The tall, silver-skinned alien quickly looked away, and Miller's stomach tightened. Something was very wrong. The High Speaker, a tall being made of shifting crystal, raised all four arms for silence. "We gather today to address the approach of the Void Collective Fleet. Our long-range sensors show they will reach this sector in 30 Earth days." Images appeared in the center of the chamber, a massive fleet of black ships, stretching as far as the eye could see. Miller had never seen so many warships in one place. "The Collective has already destroyed 17 civilizations," the High Speaker continued. "They leave nothing alive. No survivors, no prisoners, only empty worlds." Miller stepped forward to speak, but Zaxval beat him to it. The Centaurian's voice shook. The Centaurian Federation must officially declare neutrality in this conflict. The words hit Miller like a physical blow. The Centaurians had been humanity's first alien contact, their steadfast allies for 50 years. They had helped Earth join the galactic community, shared technology, fought alongside humans in the pirate wars. "Zaxval," Miller said, his voice steady despite his shock. "We've been friends for—" "I'm sorry, David," Zaxval interrupted. "The Collective's forces are too strong. We must protect our own worlds." One by one, other allies stood and declared neutrality. The Regelians, the Ta Collective, the Martian Alliance. Each announcement drove the knife deeper. Miller waited until the last declaration finished. Then he walked to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the terrible silence. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. "Humanity remembers its history," he said. "We remember times when good people stood aside while evil advanced. We remember the cost of that silence." He looked at each council member in turn. "We remember, and we choose differently." He straightened to his full height. "Earth will fight. Alone if we must, but we will fight. We will not surrender our homes, our children, our future to these monsters. And when this is over, if we survive, we will also remember who stood with us and who stood aside." The High Speaker shifted uncomfortably. "Ambassador Miller, please understand. The Void Collective's technology is far beyond Earth's capabilities. Their weapons can crack planets. Their shields deflect our strongest attacks. Fighting them is suicide." Miller smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Maybe. But humanity has a long history of doing the impossible when backed into a corner. We're funny that way." He turned to leave, then stopped at the chamber door. "One last thing. When we win this war, and we will win, don't bother sending congratulations. Earth's admission to the Galactic Council was a mistake. We thought we were joining a community of equals. Instead, we found cowards." Back in his office, Miller sat heavily in his chair. His hands were shaking now that no one could see them. He pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Earth Command," he said. "Priority 1 channel." He looked out at Earth again, so beautiful, so vulnerable. "And send word to all human colonies and ships. As of this moment, we are at war." In the next few hours, the news spread across Earth and its colonies. Factories switched to wartime production. Military reserves were called up. Ships were recalled from deep space missions. Planetary defense systems were activated. Humanity had faced extinction before, in their own bloody history. They had nearly destroyed themselves more than once, but they had survived, learned, grown stronger. Now they faced their greatest challenge: and they faced it alone. But unknown to the Galactic Council, this abandonment would prove to be a terrible mistake, because humanity's greatest moments had always come when the odds seemed impossible, when there was no choice but to win or die trying. The Void Collective was about to learn this lesson the hard way. Admiral Emily Roberts walked through the giant underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. Red warning lights flashed on the walls. Hundreds of military personnel rushed around her, preparing Earth's defenses. "Give me the bad news first," she said to Colonel Robert Hayes, who fell into step beside her. "The Void Collective will reach our outer defense line in 25 days, Hayes said, showing her a tablet. Their ship's number in the thousands. But he smiled slightly. "We found something interesting about their technology." They entered the main control room, where a large screen showed the enemy fleet. Dr. Lisa Wright, their lead weapons scientist, stood up from her desk. "Admiral, look at this." Dr. Wright pointed to some readings. "The Void Collective's weapons and shields are incredibly advanced, but they have a weakness. They expect everyone to use energy weapons like they do. Their shields are designed to stop energy attacks." Admiral Roberts raised an eyebrow. And humanity still uses lots of physical weapons. Bullets, missiles, kinetic strikes, things they might consider primitive. Dr. Wright's eyes sparkled. "Their shields don't work nearly as well against solid objects." For the first time in days, Roberts felt a glimmer of hope. So our primitive weapons might actually work better than advanced alien technology. "Exactly," Hayes nodded. "We're already changing our strategy. Instead of trying to match their energy weapons, we're going back to basics. Mass drivers, rail guns, nuclear warheads, even simple metal projectiles at high speed." Roberts walked to the main tactical display. "Show me our defense plan." The screen lit up with Earth's defensive layers. The outer defense line was at the edge of the solar system. The middle line ran through the asteroid belt. The inner line protected Earth and Mars directly. "We've recalled every ship and soldier," Hayes reported. "The colonies on Mars and the Moon are being fortified. We're placing nuclear mines throughout the asteroid belt. Every weapon we have is being modified based on what we learned." "What about civilians?" Roberts asked. "Underground shelters are ready," Hayes said. "We can protect about 60% of the population. The rest will have to rely on local defenses." Roberts nodded grimly. "Not perfect, but better than nothing." "And our ships?" "Every ship is being refitted with physical weapons," Dr. Wright answered. "We're stripping away energy weapons to make room for more rail guns and missile launchers. The crews think it's crazy, going backward in technology, but the math doesn't lie." Roberts walked to the window that overlooked the massive underground hangar. Below, crews worked day and night on warships. The sounds of welding and construction echoed up to them. Humanity's entire fleet was being rebuilt in less than a month. "The Void Collective thinks we'll be easy to defeat," Roberts said quietly. "They think we're alone and primitive." "Good. Let them think that." She turned to her officers. "Spread the word to all commands. We're not fighting a normal war here. We're fighting for survival. Every trick, every dirty tactic, every crazy idea is on the table. We fight with everything we have." Just then, a young officer ran into the room. "Admiral, we just got word from our deep space probes. The Void Collective destroyed another civilization, the Proxima Republic. He swallowed hard. They cracked the planet in half." The room fell silent. The Proxima Republic had been more advanced than Earth. Roberts stood straighter. "Show everyone that footage. I want every soldier, every pilot, every civilian to see what happens if we lose. Fear can make you run, or it can make you fight harder than you ever have before. We choose to fight." She looked at each person in the room. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own near destruction. We survived because we're stubborn, we're creative, and we never, ever give up. Now we face our greatest test. She pointed to the tactical display. Every ship ready for combat in 2 weeks. Every weapon modified in 3 weeks. Every soldier trained on the new tactics in 4 weeks. The Void Collective wants to test humanity's strength. She smiled grimly. Let's show them exactly how strong we can be. As her officers rushed to carry out her orders, Roberts looked again at the enemy fleet display. The Void Collective was about to learn an important lesson. Sometimes the old ways, the simple ways, were the deadliest. And humanity was about to teach that lesson with everything they had. Lieutenant Susan Cooper sat in her command chair aboard the patrol ship Thunderchild, watching the radar screen with intense focus. Her small fleet of 5 ships hid behind Pluto, waiting. The enemy was coming. Contact, her sensor officer whispered. Multiple ships entering the system. They're huge, Lieutenant. The Void Collective ships appeared on their screens. Black vessels larger than anything humanity had ever built, moving with terrifying grace. The lead ship alone was bigger than an aircraft carrier. Remember your training, Cooper said calmly to her crew. Remember what we learned. Their shields don't stop physical objects well. We have the advantage of surprise. She took a deep breath. And remember Earth. The enemy fleet moved closer, not expecting any resistance this far out. Why would they? Every other civilization had surrendered or died fighting them head-on. But humanity had different plans. All ships maintain radio silence, Cooper ordered through the secure line. Wait until they're past us. Minutes passed like hours. Cooper's hands tightened on her armrests as the massive enemy fleet moved past their hiding spot. The plan was simple but dangerous. Let the enemy pass, then hit them from behind where their shields were weakest. Now, Cooper commanded, execute attack pattern Delta. 5 human ships burst from behind Pluto's shadow, engines roaring to full power. The Void Collective ships, caught completely by surprise, took precious seconds to react. All ships, fire everything, Cooper ordered. Aim for their engines. The space around them lit up as humanity's primitive weapons were unleashed. Rail guns fired massive metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles streaked through space, carrying their deadly payloads. Simple metal balls, heated to near melting and fired in clouds, spread toward the enemy ships. The Void Collective's energy shields, designed to stop laser fire and plasma weapons, struggled against the physical assault. The first barrage tore through their defenses like paper. Direct hits on 3 enemy ships. Her weapons officer shouted, "Their shields are failing." Cooper watched as her fleet's weapons found their marks. One of the giant enemy ships spun out of control, its engines destroyed by simple metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Another erupted in a series of explosions as missiles found gaps in its armor. But the enemy was recovering from their surprise. Energy weapons began firing back, filling space with deadly beams of light. Evasive maneuvers, Cooper ordered. Don't let them lock on. Keep moving. The human ships danced through space, smaller and more agile than their massive opponents. They had trained for this, practiced until every move was perfect. The enemy's energy weapons were powerful but slow to aim. Human ships could dodge them, if they were skilled enough. The lightning is hit, someone shouted. One of Cooper's ships had taken damage, but it kept fighting. Focus fire on the lead ship, Cooper commanded. All ships, fire your nuclear payloads. 5 nuclear missiles launched simultaneously. The enemy, still not understanding the threat of primitive weapons, tried to shoot them down with energy weapons. They missed. The explosions were silent in space, but the effect was devastating. The lead enemy ship's shields collapsed completely, and the blast tore huge holes in its hull. "Ma'am, enemy ships are turning to engage," her tactical officer reported. Cooper smiled grimly. Mission accomplished. All ships, execute emergency jump to rally point Beta. Her small fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind 3 destroyed enemy capital ships and 2 heavily damaged ones. The first battle between humanity and the Void Collective was over. Hours later, in the debriefing room back at Earth's main space station, Cooper gave her report to Admiral Roberts. "It worked exactly like our scientists predicted," Cooper said. "Their shields couldn't handle physical weapons effectively. They were completely surprised by our tactics." Roberts nodded. "You proved our strategy works, Lieutenant. But more importantly, you showed them something they've never seen before, a prey that bites back." Cooper looked at the battle footage playing on the screen. "They'll adapt their tactics now. They won't underestimate us again." "No," Roberts agreed. "But that's exactly what we wanted. Now they'll be cautious, slower, more defensive. And that gives us time to prepare our next surprise." She turned to Cooper. "Good work, Lieutenant. Get your ships repaired and your crews rested. The real war is about to begin." Cooper saluted and left the room. As she walked through the station's corridors, she saw crews rushing to refit more ships with the weapons that had proved so effective. The first battle was won, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Void Collective had just learned their first lesson about humanity. Never underestimate those who fight for their home. Captain John Martinez stood at the observation window of Mars Base 1, watching as dust storms swirled across the red planet's surface. Behind him, soldiers rushed to their positions. The Void Collective had changed course after their first defeat. They were heading straight for Mars. "They think Mars is weaker than Earth," Martinez said to his second-in-command. "They're wrong." The massive defense guns around Olympus Mons, the largest mountain in the solar system, stood ready. Hidden bunkers held thousands of soldiers. Underground hangars contained hundreds of fighters and tanks, all modified with the weapons that had proved so effective in the first battle. Enemy fleet entering Mars orbit. The warning echoed through every speaker. All personnel to battle stations. Martinez ran to the command center deep underground. The room buzzed with activity as officers coordinated Earth's first major ground defense against the alien invasion. "Status report," he ordered. "Enemy ships are launching landing craft," an officer replied. "Thousands of them. They're heading for Olympus Mons." Martinez nodded. This was expected. The mountain held most of Mars' important facilities. Of course the enemy would target it first. "Begin Operation Sandstorm," he commanded. Dr. Lisa Wright, who had flown to Mars just days before, pressed a series of buttons on her console. Hundreds of hidden devices activated across the Martian surface. The planet's already fierce dust storms grew stronger, much stronger. The enemy landing craft, designed for perfect conditions, suddenly found themselves flying blind in hurricane-force winds filled with sharp red dust. Their sensors couldn't penetrate the storm. Many crashed before reaching the ground. "Phase 2, Martinez ordered. "Light them up." The defense guns around Olympus Mons opened fire. Rail guns launched streams of metal slugs at the confused enemy ships. Missile batteries hidden under the red sand fired upward. The sky filled with explosions. But the Void Collective was not easily defeated. Their ground forces were as advanced as their ships. Giant war machines, 3 times the size of human tanks, emerged from the surviving landing craft. Alien soldiers in advanced armor marched forward, their energy weapons glowing in the dust storm. "Let them get closer," Martinez said calmly. "Wait for it." The enemy advanced toward the mountain, probably wondering why there was so little resistance. They didn't notice that the ground beneath their feet had been prepared for this moment. "Now," Martinez commanded. Dr. Wright activated the final part of their trap. The specially prepared Martian soil, packed with tiny machines, came alive. The ground under the enemy forces turned to quicksand. Their heavy war machines began to sink. Alien soldiers found themselves trapped waist-deep in the red dirt. "All units, attack." Martinez's voice rang out. Hidden doors in the mountain opened. Human tanks and infantry emerged, using the dust storm as cover. Their weapons, simple but deadly, tore into the trapped enemy forces. Rail guns mounted on tanks fired special rounds that split into hundreds of pieces, shredding through alien armor. The battle for Olympus Mons had begun. Enemy forces trying to retreat. Someone shouted. "Don't let them," Martins ordered. "Push them back into the trap zones. Keep them confused and separated." The fighting was fierce. Energy beams from alien weapons lit up the dust storm. Human guns answered with thunder and steel. The side of the mountain echoed with explosions and battle cries. Hours passed. The enemy, despite their advanced technology, couldn't adapt to the conditions. Their sensors were blinded by the dust. Their shields couldn't stop physical weapons. Their heavy war machines became death traps in the shifting sand. Finally, after 6 hours of continuous fighting, the remaining enemy forces retreated. The sky cleared enough to see their landing craft rushing back to their ships. In the command center, Martinez looked at the battle results. They had destroyed over 70% of the enemy's ground forces. The cost had been high. Hundreds of human soldiers had died. But Mars still stood. "Send word to Earth Command," he ordered. "Mars holds. The enemy's first ground assault has failed." He looked at the tired faces around him. "Good work, everyone. But this was just the beginning. They'll be back, and next time they'll be ready for our tricks." Dr. Wright nodded. "Then we'll just have to come up with new ones." Martinez smiled grimly. The Void Collective had learned another lesson today. Humanity didn't just fight in space. They could fight anywhere, and they would use every advantage they could find. As he watched the enemy ships retreat to a higher orbit, Martinez began planning for the next battle. The war for Mars and humanity's survival was far from over. Commander William Parker looked at the small fleet of ships around him. They were hiding in Earth's shadow, waiting. After their defeat on Mars, the Void Collective had gathered their forces for a massive attack. But Admiral Roberts had a plan. A dangerous, possibly crazy plan. "All ships confirmed ready," Parker said into his radio. His mission was simple but likely suicidal. Lead the enemy into a trap using Earth's gravity as a weapon. "Enemy fleet approaching," his sensor officer reported. "Massive numbers. At least 2,000 ships." Parker took a deep breath. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike. Launch the mines." Hundreds of nuclear mines, disguised as space debris, drifted out from Earth's shadow. They looked like ordinary junk, broken satellites, old rocket parts, pieces of metal, the kind of garbage that often floated around inhabited planets. "First wave of enemy ships entering the debris field," someone reported. "They're not slowing down." "Of course not." Parker smiled grimly. Why would advanced aliens worry about space junk? The first explosions lit up space like new stars being born. Nuclear fire caught the enemy ships by surprise, their shields facing the wrong way, optimized for the wrong kind of attack. "Phase 2, Parker ordered. "All ships, attack pattern Omega." His fleet burst from Earth's shadow, engines at full power. But instead of attacking directly, they flew in a complex pattern through Earth's gravity well. The enemy ships followed, just as planned. "They're chasing us," Parker's tactical officer said, taking the bait. The human ships flew faster, diving closer to Earth, using its gravity to gain speed. The enemy followed, their larger ships struggling with the sharp turns and changing gravity. "All ships, execute power dive on my mark," Parker commanded. 3, 2, 1, mark. The human fleet suddenly cut their engines and dove toward Earth. The enemy ships, caught by surprise, tried to follow, but their size worked against them. Earth's gravity grabbed them, pulling them into unstable orbits. "Now," Parker shouted, "fire everything." His ships spun around, using Earth's gravity to add speed to their weapons. Rail guns fired at speeds even higher than normal. Missiles screamed through space, boosted by the planet's pull. The enemy ships, already struggling with their orbits, couldn't dodge effectively. But the Void Collective wasn't finished. Their ships fired back, filling space with deadly energy beams. 2 human ships exploded. Another spun out of control. "Keep firing," Parker ordered. "Don't let up." The space around Earth turned into a graveyard of broken ships. The enemy's superior technology meant little when they couldn't maintain stable orbits. Their giant ships, designed for straight-line battles in deep space, couldn't handle the complex dance of orbital combat. "Commander," his sensor officer shouted, more enemy ships approaching from behind. Parker smiled. "Right on schedule. Admiral Roberts, they're all yours." From the asteroid belt, humanity's main fleet appeared, led by Admiral Roberts herself. While Parker's forces had drawn the enemy into Earth's gravity trap, Roberts had positioned her ships for a killing blow. "All ships, fire nuclear torpedoes," Roberts' voice came over the radio. "Target their engines." Hundreds of nuclear weapons streaked across space. The enemy fleet, already tangled in Earth's gravity well, couldn't escape. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers, destroying or crippling dozens of their largest ships. "They're retreating," someone shouted. "The enemy fleet is pulling back." Parker watched as the surviving Void Collective ships struggled to break free from Earth's gravity. Many of them crashed into each other trying to escape, causing even more damage. Hours later, in the aftermath of battle, Parker stood with Admiral Roberts on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the damage reports. "We destroyed almost half their fleet," Roberts said. "But the cost?" She looked at the list of human ships lost in the battle. "Those crews knew what they were fighting for," Parker replied quietly. "And they proved something important today." "What's that?" "That sometimes the simplest force, gravity, can beat the most advanced technology. The enemy still hasn't learned not to underestimate us." Roberts nodded. "They'll be back, with new tactics and strategies." "And we'll be ready," Parker said firmly, "because we're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to show the galaxy that humanity won't be pushed around, won't be looked down on, and won't ever give up." As they talked, Earth turned slowly below them, its surface scarred by the battle but unbroken. The Void Collective had just learned their hardest lesson yet: never fight humans near their home world. They would use everything, even gravity itself, as a weapon. Major Karen Thompson stood in the Emergency Command Center beneath New York City, watching as red dots appeared on the giant screen. After their defeat in orbit, the Void Collective had chosen a new strategy. They were targeting Earth's cities directly. Multiple enemy ships entering atmosphere. The warning system blared. "All cities, activate defense shields." "Get me a status report on civilian evacuation," Thompson ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. 80% of civilians are in underground shelters," her assistant reported. "The rest are still moving. We need more time." Above ground, the sky turned dark as hundreds of enemy ships descended through the clouds. They had learned from their previous defeats and changed their tactics. Instead of one massive attack, they split into smaller groups, targeting multiple cities at once. "They're trying to overwhelm our defenses," Thompson said. "Signal all defense stations. Execute Plan Iron Wall." Across every major city, hidden defense towers rose from the ground. They weren't the energy weapons the enemy expected. Instead, they were something much simpler: giant railguns loaded with special ammunition. "Enemy ships launching ground forces," someone shouted. "They're going for a direct invasion." Thompson grabbed her radio. "All units, remember your training. Let them land. Let them think they've succeeded." The enemy forces landed in the streets of cities worldwide. Their soldiers marched forward, expecting easy victories against primitive humans. They didn't know they were walking into a trap. "Now," Thompson commanded, "spring the trap." The streets themselves came alive. Panels flipped open, revealing hidden weapons. Buildings that looked damaged or abandoned suddenly bristled with gun ports. Every window, every doorway, every alley became a firing position. "All units, open fire," Thompson ordered. The sound of battle echoed across every major city on Earth. But this wasn't a normal battle. Humans had turned their cities into giant kill zones, using their knowledge of urban warfare to its fullest. Enemy soldiers found themselves caught in crossfire from all directions. Their advanced armor, designed to stop energy weapons, couldn't handle the thousands of simple metal projectiles hitting them from every angle. "Ma'am," her communication officer called. "Admiral Roberts reports the space fleet is in position." Thompson smiled. "Tell them to begin their attack. It's time to end this." Above the atmosphere, Earth's remaining ships appeared from behind the moon. Led by Admiral Roberts, they caught the enemy supply ships by surprise. Without support from space, the ground forces were trapped. Enemy forces attempting to retreat in sectors 3 through 7. Someone reported. "Don't let them," Thompson ordered. "Drive them into the prepared zones." The prepared zones were areas of cities that had been specially modified. When enemy forces entered them, hidden explosives detonated, powerful electromagnetic pulses disabled their advanced weapons, and pre-sighted artillery turned the zones into death traps. Hour after hour, the battle raged. Humans fought for every street, every building, every inch of their home. The enemy's superior technology meant little in the concrete canyons of Earth's cities, where simple ambushes and well-placed traps proved more valuable than advanced weapons. In New York, Thompson watched as the battle turned. Enemy ships tried to retreat but found themselves caught between ground fire and the human fleet above. Their soldiers, cut off from support and supplies, were forced to surrender or be destroyed. Enemy forces are dropping their weapons in multiple sectors. The reports started coming in. They're surrendering. Thompson looked at the tactical display. Across the world, the red dots representing enemy forces were disappearing. Some were destroyed, others surrendered, but the result was the same. Humanity had won. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Push them back. Drive them off our world." The remaining enemy ships fled Earth's atmosphere, pursued by the human fleet. Their ground forces, those that survived, were taken prisoner, the first prisoners ever captured from the Void Collective. Hours later, Thompson stood in Times Square, looking at the damage. Buildings were scared, streets were torn up, but the city, and humanity, had survived. "Major," a young soldier approached her. "Admiral Roberts sends word. The enemy fleet is retreating from the solar system. We did it. We actually did it." Thompson nodded, watching as civilians began emerging from their shelters. "We did more than survive," she said. "We proved something important today." "What's that, ma'am?" "That it's not the size of your ships or the power of your weapons that matters most in war. It's how far you're willing to go to protect your home. And humanity just showed the galaxy that we'll go as far as we need to." The sun rose over the battlefield Earth had become, marking the beginning of a new day, and a new era for humanity in the galaxy. Ambassador David Miller walked into the Galactic Council chamber exactly 1 month after humanity's victory. The room felt different now. Where once he had seen pity and dismissal in alien eyes, now he saw something new. Respect, tinged with fear. The High Speaker's crystal form seemed less bright than before. "The Council recognizes Earth's Ambassador David Miller," the being said quietly. Miller stood at the center of the chamber, the same spot where he had stood when Earth's allies abandoned them. But this time, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Admiral Roberts, Major Thompson, and Commander Parker, heroes of humanity's victory. "The Void Collective has retreated beyond known space," Miller began. "Their fleet is destroyed, their ground forces captured, their reputation for invincibility shattered." He looked around the chamber, and humanity did this alone. The Centaurian representative, Zaxval, stood up. "Friend Miller," he said, his silver skin dulled with shame. "The Centaurian Federation wishes to restore our alliance with Earth. We were wrong to abandon you." One by one, other former allies stood, offering similar words. They spoke of renewed friendships, restored trade agreements, shared defense pacts. Miller waited until they finished. Then he smiled, a smile that held no warmth. "Earth has learned some interesting things from our former allies," he said. We learned who would stand with us in dark times. We learned that advanced technology doesn't guarantee victory. Most importantly, we learned that humanity is stronger than anyone suspected, including ourselves. He gestured to Admiral Roberts, who stepped forward with a data tablet. We've studied the Void Collective's captured technology. Combined with our own innovations from the war, Earth now possesses the most effective military force in known space. Our primitive weapons, merged with advanced alien technology, have created something new, something powerful. The council chamber grew very quiet. Earth is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, Miller announced. We will form a new alliance, one based on courage and loyalty, not convenience. Any civilization that proves itself worthy may apply to join. The High Speaker's crystal form flickered in alarm. Ambassador Miller, please reconsider. The Council needs Earth's strength. The Council had Earth's strength, Miller interrupted. They chose to reject it. Now they can watch as we build something better. He turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. Earth's space is now closed to all Council races. If you wish to visit, you'll need to apply for permission. I suggest you be very polite when asking. Back on Earth, Miller stood with the other leaders in the new Global Defense Headquarters. Through the window, they could see construction crews rebuilding damaged cities. But they were building something else too. New shipyards, new defense systems, new technologies that combined human innovation with captured alien science. The Centaurians sent another message. Major Thompson said, "They're begging to join our new alliance." Admiral Roberts laughed. Let them wait. Let them all wait. Earth needs time to grow stronger, to prepare. Prepare for what? Commander Parker asked. For whatever comes next, Miller replied. The galaxy now knows that humanity isn't just another primitive species to be ignored or pitied. We're a force to be respected, and maybe a little feared. He looked at the stars becoming visible in the darkening sky. The Void Collective taught everyone a lesson. They showed that the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. It's the one who never gives up, who uses everything they have, who fights with their whole heart. They taught that lesson. Admiral Roberts smiled, but humanity wrote it in their blood. In the following months, Earth changed. Cities were rebuilt, stronger than before. The captured alien technology was studied and improved. Human ships, now armed with both advanced energy weapons and primitive projectile weapons, patrolled Earth's expanding territory. Other civilizations watched in awe as humanity grew from a minor power to a major force in the galaxy. Some feared this rise. Others admired it. But all remembered the lesson. Never underestimate humans. Never abandon them. And never, ever, back them into a corner. Because humanity had proven what they could do when pushed too far. They had shown the galaxy that sometimes the strongest weapons aren't the most advanced. Their courage, determination, and the will to survive. The stars looked different now to the people of Earth. They weren't just points of light anymore. They were possibilities, opportunities, new frontiers to explore. And if anyone else tried to threaten humanity's future, well, Earth would be ready. This time, they wouldn't be alone. This time, they would be the ones teaching the lessons.